Hi everyone, welcome to the climate crisis, what it is and what each of us can do about it. My name is Professor Ken Hiltner. I'm the lecturer for the course, but please call me Ken. So usually when I make these little videos, the first thing I do is address, my joke is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is the room itself and where I actually am recording this. But first, apologies to students from English 22, as you've already heard this, and to everyone else. This is English 23, the climate crisis, but there's another course that I teach every year, and I teach every fall, which is English 22, Introduction to Literature and the Environment. And I checked the rosters, and about 1 in 6 people in our class came from English 22. So you already know who I am if you're from English 22, and apologies for that. But anyhow, so where am I? This is not a green screen or something. That's a real room. That's my backpack hanging behind me. And let me show you if I can do it here. Yeah, so that's me waving at you, and I'm in that little building, which is in my backyard. Now, this is a video you're watching, and the reason is, if you notice off to the one side there, that's a window folded back on either side. And the reason I'm not actually recording this live is because, well, it's really cold outside this morning. So this is Wednesday, 2 days before the first of the year, and we just had a frost. I'm looking outside, looking at a pair of Adirondack chairs that I made, and there's frost all on the top of those, which has me a little concerned because, well, where I am is in my backyard in downtown Santa Barbara in this little building that I built. And there's a connection to our class insofar as we're going to read an excerpt from Henry David Thoreau's Walden. And I read Walden at first when I was in my early teens. And as a consequence, I always wanted to build a little place like Thoreau's. I didn't want to go out into like a semi-wilderness area to live or anything, but I thought it would be kind of cool. Other people have had this idea. Michael Pollan, in fact, did it and wrote a book about it. And it's proven to be great because sitting here in my yard, I can look out over the whole yard, and because of COVID, of course, I'm home a lot, so I'm here in this building a lot. And the idea of it, which has really worked out well, is that I have a 5-year-old daughter, and of course she's home from school, even though we're doing Zoom kindergarten now. And I can see her playing in the yard, and I can see her swing over there and all, which is great. What else I'm surveying here is, and you can't see it again because I don't have an external camera, but right over there is a chicken coop with a very loud chicken in there. And I'm going to forewarn you, and people in English 22 know this to be true, that when I'm recording lectures, she will often be making noise because I record in the morning. And we had more chickens at one point, but it's a long story. We just have one left. And sometimes when chickens are alone, they sort of take on the whole role of the sort of chicken culture. So she actually takes on the role of rooster and will sometimes, crow in the morning like a rooster. It's quite loud, as my neighbors can attest. It's a small yard here in a small neighborhood, but it can be kind of loud when we're recording. Sorry about that. On the other side of the chicken coop is a small greenhouse, almost identical to this building in square footage. So this building is 5 by 7. It's only 35 square feet. To put that in perspective, it's the size of, well, a bathroom in your house. Maybe if you have a big house, a closet even. But also, to put it in perspective, it's about the same size, maybe even a little bigger than a typical office cubicle. So in many ways, I'm just like in a cubicle, but my cubicle, given the way the windows are situated here, and I designed it this way, why the windows fold all the way back, is when the windows are open, and even now they're all glass, it gives me the perception that I'm sitting outside. So you see me in a building here and think that's all about the building, but it's not. To me, it's like I'm sitting out in the middle of a garden. Why there's a greenhouse there is, well, a couple things about me. First, for longer than I've been a professor, I was a furniture maker, an artisan. That's how I made my living for many years. And as a consequence, I was able to build this building and the chicken coop and greenhouse and all that. But also, I grew up on a farm. So being an environmentalist, when we moved here, and again, we're in downtown Santa Barbara, 10 years ago, we began, this would be my wife and I before we had our daughter, we began converting the yard, and it's a typical suburban yard. It's big by Santa Barbara standards, but kind of average suburb-wise, if you look at the whole U.S. We began converting it to an urban farm. So straight over there are raised beds where we grow vegetables, produce. There are a little over 50 of those, and I'm very concerned about them because it was cold last night and we did have a frost. There are new plants there, especially I just cleared out the last of our tomatoes a few days ago, which remarkably were still producing tomatoes. They weren't quite as sweet as they could have been, but they were the little cherry and grape tomatoes. But they had to go, and since they're what we call heavy feeders, I've put in beans and sugar snap peas, which are one of my daughter's favorites, which are, as legumes, are very good at sort of replenishing the soil and fixing nitrogen. There are a lot of, maybe you saw in the little video I showed you, there are fruit trees around me. There's a plum tree there, 3 apple trees there, and a new mission fig, which is growing pretty well. So anyhow, this class. First, to avoid any confusion, the class is English 23, and that is the climate crisis, what it is and what each of us can do about it. But you'll also note online it's called Climate Crisis 101. In fact, if you ever can't find the course material, just remember that and you type into your browser climatecrisis101.com, no spaces, and you'll be taken to the course website. The reason for this is that this is a large course. There are 1,000 students in it this year. Normally there are just 860, or last year there were 860. But because of COVID, we're not limited to the seating capacity of Campbell Hall, which of course is the largest, venue on campus. And we decided to up it to 1,000 students. I am, sort of to back up a little, a professor for sure, but I am also part of a group who consider ourselves scholar activists, and I am an environmental and principally a climate activist, first and foremost. So folks like me, some call ourselves, call ourselves scholar activists, and I tend to call myself an activist scholar because it really is sort of central to what I do. And it's great to be able to reach an audience of 1,000 students. In fact, that's my goal. A lot of colleagues think that I'm pretty crazy. So in my department, English, a lot of people try to teach smaller classes. Our normal class is what we call a small lecture, 38 students, but very coveted is to teach our upper division seminars. We have something called 197. It has only 15 or 17 students, and everybody wants to teach that, but I want to teach these really large courses, which are among the largest at UCSB. So why? Well, as an activist scholar, I really want to reach as many people as I can. And this is a long-winded way of getting back to the issue of why this course is also called Climate Crisis 101, which is because it has a large online presence as well. When we taught it last year, all the videos, and I have 2 other videos that I'm going to go over things about, like the content of the course and format and all, but the format is that we have YouTube lectures, and we also have a course website which houses a lot. Last year, during the 10 weeks that the course was open, we had just over 100,000 visitors to the course website and the YouTube channel. We don't have very many subscribers, I don't know how many, it's under 1,000, but it's not really something you'd subscribe to because I don't put content up very often. There's a ton of content that goes up during a course and then nothing for the rest of the year. But anyhow, nearly 100,000 or over 100,000 people visit it. And part of that is because we had, students going back to look over videos back and forth, but it doesn't really account for that number. And the reason is folks are sharing this information with friends. Everything about the course is completely open. So people are sharing with friends, with family, in some cases like with high school teachers and other professors. And as a consequence, people are curious and they're visiting the website. And that's my goal. As an activist scholar, I want to try to spread this information as much as I can, not just to the class, even though it is a large class, but even beyond that. So it's what we call like an outward-facing course. It is completely open, but I'll talk about that during one of the other videos. This was just to introduce you to me. It is a little nostalgic to be teaching this, and not necessarily in a good way, in that last year this was taught in the winter, and as the course opened, the first week of the year, I don't think anyone had heard of COVID-19. But by the end of the term, it was on everyone's mind, and I think the administration was trying to do everything they could to hold off closing down campus in the hope that we'd be able to finish out the winter term and have exams and all. It seemed like a bad idea, and I think they in fact did realize it was a bad idea, and they wound up closing the campus before the term ended. So it's nostalgic for me to revisit English 23 now, because this marks a year of the pandemic, and the end of the term will mark when during the term, toward the end, will mark when the campus closed. But hopefully it'll be opening again. So I just wanted to give you this as a little introduction so that you could see me, meet me, get to know who I am. But also I wanted to note one thing here, and it's important, and that is, initially, this is a really depressing class. I mean, really. And the reason for that is, well, you can go by the title of it, The Climate Crisis, What It Is, and What Each of Us Can Do About It. It's that what it is part that's the problem, because for the first 3 weeks or so, we're going to be focusing on what the climate crisis is and what's happening and the implications of it. And that will, the first week, be nationally and globally. The second week, we're going to bring it closer to home, both to California and actually to Santa Barbara and Ventura counties. By the way, I think you can hear that. I fear you can hear that. It sounds like there's a fire truck going down the road. This is not, hopefully that's true. This is by no means a studio-grade operation here. I am shooting with a DSLR camera, which gives a good video quality, but this room is not treated in any way, and worse, it's not an insulated room, which I am both feeling because it's very cold right now, and also it doesn't block out the sound. So sorry about that. Normally it won't be fire engines, more chickens would be the bigger problem, but those first 3 weeks are tough. The second week, again, sort of regionally and locally looking at the issue. And then the third week, unfortunately, we're looking at climate change denial and the incredible structure and political structure of people who are denying the climate change, the climate crisis is happening, and how effective they've been. And this is all very depressing, right? So it's bad. I mean, you're going to see how bad it is. You're going to see how bad it is locally, and you're going to see how hard it is to change, because the fossil fuel industry and its affiliates are doing everything they can to keep us from acting on this. So by the end of week 3, yeah, you're going to be pretty depressed. And the course could have just been 10 weeks of that, and that would have been really almost unbearable. But the thing about this is, the next 7 weeks, and that's the second part of the class, so the climate crisis, what it is, and what each of us can do about it. And in that class, we're going to be looking at what we can do, both through personal action, collective activism, political action, and to a lesser extent, technologically. So there's a lot that we can do, and I'm going to introduce you to people in the course who are doing extraordinary things, people who already, people who have personally reduced their individual climate or carbon footprints by a factor of 10, and incredible changes that are possible. And the message of that second part, or really the second 2/3 of the class, is that we can absolutely beat this thing. It is entirely possible. But it is going to involve considerable cultural changes. And as a cultural historian, a specialist in culture, that's where I come in. But I'll explain more of that in the next video, which will be on the course content and what it is. But here I just wanted to introduce you to me, to where I am when you see me here, and also to the fact that, the course is difficult in the sense that it is emotionally difficult and all, but hang on till week 4, and you'll see that there's a lot that we can do, and I think in dealing with something like this emotionally, that's a really important component. In other words, if you feel that this is a situation so big and out of control, there's nothing you can do, and you feel helpless, that's a really difficult feeling to have. But if you feel, and you should, that this is something you can do something about on a daily basis, and make big changes to the world, then it's really a lot more manageable, I think. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for listening, and check out the other 2 videos. And again, welcome to the class.